Today's podcast is brought to you by Star Local Media, 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news. Welcome to another edition of the Star Local Media Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor here at Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Taylor Ragland, who does sports for Plano, Allen, and Lake Cities, as well as Brian Murphy, who is the sports editor for our Frisco, Little Elm, and Salina papers. And gentlemen, we're here to talk some home stretch baseball. We've got 3 games left in the regular season, which means district title races, playoff races, seeding races, all sorts of races are still up for grabs within our respective districts. You got some where things are kind of fallen into place. You know who's going to be vying for the district title. You know the 4 teams that are in the playoffs, and then you've got districts like 6-6A and 13-5A, which are just every night it is just thrown completely into chaos. So we're going to focus on those districts where there's still plenty to be settled over this next week and a half. I mean, we just mentioned 6-6A, Taylor. That seems like a perfect way to start because
Sure.
This district, man, let's get wild. 6-6A. This district is just, man, I cannot recall just across the 6-6A sports in general, since this district was first created, a situation quite like this where we've got 3 games left in the regular season and nobody has clinched a playoff spot. You have 5 teams. You have actually technically 6 teams are still alive.
Yeah,
as far as
McKinney also down there still alive.
You've got, all right, so here's just to give folks an update. Here's what happened after Tuesday night. You've got a team. We do have a team that's all alone in first place. Miraculously, Allen is in first place. They are at 8-3. But then after last night's results, we have a 4-way tie for second place.
We have a mess, is what we have. We have a mess.
It's ridiculous. It's 7-4, featuring Plano Senior, Plano West, McKinney Boyd, and Guyer. And then you've got McKinney, who is what do we recall McKinney's record offhand? They're 7-4. I believe McKinney.
They won yesterday, right?
McKinney's 5-6.
That makes them 5-6.
McKinney's 5-6. So McKinney's still mathematically alive, albeit their road to hoe is a little bit more difficult than the aforementioned 5 teams. But as you've seen there, within those top 5, you've got 4 teams. All 5 can conceivably they could all win the district. They could all miss the playoffs. It is that crazy right now, and you just, I can't recall just another sport in 6-6A that's been like that, where you've had this much just balance and parity so late into the season. Usually, you've got a team or two that's kind of separated themselves from the pack, but that's not the case. So we're going to ask the tough questions right now, specifically.
Right.
Well, Taylor, let's see. I mean, of these 5 and I guess 6 teams, who's winning this district between 6-6A?
Well, I mean, it's so hard to put a thumb on Allen right now. I think is the real question, because it's hard to go against them because they've found ways to win baseball games all year long. But it's also still hard for me to believe in them. I don't know if that's the right word, but like they are playing 1-run games almost constantly. They're scratching out wins almost constantly. You go watch them play in person, and there's nothing particularly impressive about them, and I don't mean that even in a negative way.
That sounds so mean, though. When you put it that way.
It sounds mean, but it's the truth. I mean, they're obviously finding ways to win. They're obviously a good team in that regard. Like, at the end of the day, it's about winning baseball games, and Allen has certainly figured out a recipe for winning baseball games. But when you go watch them play, it's all just head coach Paul Coe likes to talk a lot about compete, and it's usually a cliche, but it's really not. Like, you go watch them, and it's compete, it's effort, it's we're going to scratch and claw for every run that we get, and we're going to come out on top somehow, some way, and they have to this point. So it's hard to bet against them. But at the same time, it's just everything else is so up in the air. I could easily see Plano, in theory, even though they lost to West earlier this week by 7, in theory has, I think, the easiest road through. They'll have East next week, who has been eliminated, and
but it's still a rivalry, though.
But again, you never know. East could jump up and spoil Plano, and who knows. But I guess as of right now, you got to go with the lead horse. But like you said, it's a mess. It's completely up in the air, and I could see any number of probably those 5 teams finishing in first.
You mentioned Allen, and nothing, it is, kind of from a timeliness standpoint, entering this week, Allen, you mentioned the 1-run games. They had played 3 consecutive 1-run games, and they were 2-1 in that stretch. Let's see, they had to, and this is just a team that, tough to get a read on them. They did mount a 6-run comeback to beat Denton Guyer in the bottom of the 7th inning and won 8-7, and then they lost 4-3 to McKinney. Got that win back against McKinney 6-5 in the next meeting, but then they finally looked like a team that should be in first place when they just completely wiped the floor with Plano East 15-2.
That was kind of the first time that
far and away their best offensive showing of district. And but then you look at, I think the thing with trying to gauge these just these teams that are still vying for these playoff spots, as far as kind of who to place above another, is just what your schedule has left, what kind of schedule you have left. And we mentioned this the last time we talked about Allen, despite some of the results maybe not being the most eye-catching, when you just kind of comb through box scores and when you see them in person, they still did play what was a very backloaded, or I guess you say front-loaded, front-loaded district schedule. With when they played all of, you look at these teams that are all
they've played everybody.
Contention. They played their first 5 series were all against those top 5-6 teams in the district, and so now that they've emerged from that rubble in first place, they've got Plano East rounding out this week, and then they got last place Wiley next week. So you would just say, just on strength of schedule,
you would think
the district is Allen's to lose, but as we've seen though, they've shown a propensity to kind of make things a little bit trickier on themselves than they need to be. But again, like you said, it's a team where you could apply just about every cliche in the book to them. I mean, they really do just grind out and just find ways to win, as generic and baseless as that sounds. So we're kind of in agreement though that we think Allen has the more realistic road to hoe as far as winning 6XA. A good team's going to get left out though. Of these other teams, not so much who we see getting the other 3 playoff spots, but which team do you feel right now with 3 games left could, stand the strongest likelihood, at least among those top 5, of being on the outside looking in?
I think the tough part is that, I have all the remaining schedules here in front of me, and I think every team you could make a case for why they might, drop 2 more games or win out or somewhere in the middle. But I guess my gut, and maybe this isn't fair because I don't think I've seen them play in person, my gut says that maybe Boyd doesn't get in.
Interesting.
Because Plano, I think, has had a pretty strong season, and you mentioned those rivalry games. So you get the 7-0 loss to West, but I mean that could be a lot of things. That could be 1 game without timely hitting. That could be 1 game where West, really gets up and becomes the good version of their Jekyll and Hyde that they've been this season, which is a whole separate conversation with them sweeping teams and being swept. I think their streak is still alive for Friday.
Actually, they finally broke it last night against Plano. It was 2-0, 0-2, 2-0, 0-2, 2-0, and then they beat Plano last night, 3 straight for the first time. So yeah, that's
but they could still they've either swept the opponent or been swept in every series, and that's still live, which is a crazy statistic.
It's amazing that you're even in playoff contention when you've given up that many sweeps already.
It's crazy. But like I said, I mean, maybe it's not fair because I haven't seen a lot of Boyd. But at the same time, they went out and beat Guyer earlier this week handily. So maybe I'm totally off base, but it also just shows how difficult it is to predict. So I think my gut says that Boyd, they're going to have a matchup with McKinney, which is no team to look over. Another rivalry series.
McKinney's a gamer.
Week.
They're a bunch of gamers, even though they're in 6th place. They've picked up some solid wins along the way and definitely muddied up this playoff equation.
So West, with the win over Plano, play Plano again, and then play Guyer next week, you could say that's easily the toughest schedule, but I think I like what I've seen out of them, and I think I believe in them a little more to maybe finish strong, especially after the win over Plano. Plano has, like I mentioned, East next week, which, in all likelihood should be 2 wins for them. And then Guyer has been, from what I've seen, solid pretty much all season. It feels like Boyd is maybe the team that's made a little bit of a run and will need to kind of sustain a run, whereas the other 3, we talked about West being a little back and forth, and I think those 2 schools, West and Boyd, would be my candidates to miss. But I guess I'll lean Boyd. But, I mean, it's almost impossible.
I actually do kind of give Boyd a nod because you mentioned right now you can make the case that they are the hottest of these aforementioned
and
teams.
that can go one way or another. That can either go, they continue their run and stay peaking at the right time, or it finally comes crashing down around them. But that is true, because like I said, those are my two candidates, and you could easily see West. They've been so back and forth that West maybe goes back down again, and that's it.
It does kind of feel, though, like Boyd is starting to really peak at the right time, and I mean that was probably of last night, just the score that probably dropped at least my jaw the most when you hand Guyer a
50, what was that final?
15-3.
Yeah, it
15-3.
Was serious.
And this is a Guyer team that very well could have moved into first place, with a win. And I mean Boyd, like their offense has just gone up a notch just within these past few weeks. Last night you had two guys in the bottom third of the order. Let's see, I got their names right here. Chad Brown and Brooks Nightstep, who hit home runs for them. And this is just already complementing a top half of the lineup that has just been money, just night in, night out from McKinney Boyd. If you're looking just off of kind of how these teams are trending right now, I feel like Boyd definitely has a bit more working in its favor. I'm a little bit, I want to sound the alarm bells a little bit, though, for Guyer, and I don't want to come off, but not so much that, though, but it's kind of when I talk about how these teams are trending, Guyer, they lose last night to McKinney Boyd, but even prior to that, they needed a walk-off to get past last place Wiley, and I mean the results have been a little bit more inconsistent on their side. The place started to veer a little bit off the off the tracks after they had a bit of a hot start to district.
Right.
So and they've got a tough series next week against a West team that's got some momentum right now. I mean, they're between them having to close against a surging Boyd team and a West team that at least, I mean, granted, again, it's just one game, but last night, I mean, they looked just incredible against Plano with them. I mean, shutting down what had again been, if it wasn't Boyd, you could argue Plano had been the hottest team in the district, and just the role that that West is on right now, and that's, I mean, I just think that just the difficulty to close. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking.
So what you're saying is any of these teams could miss, and any of these
they really could. But if I got to pick one right now, I mean, just off of kind of how these teams are trending, I kind of think Guyer might end up being the odd one out.
I can see that.
Who knows? I mean, Brian, you got just.
I'm so confused right now.
Like I said, dude, it's never a dull day covering District 6-6A.
6-6A is crazy in every sport.
But 13-5A though, I mean, you had a scenario last night where, I mean, because kind of talking about at least the top four. I mean, a top four that can fluctuate on any given night.
Five.
Now
so Wakeland separated themselves with a win over Heritage last night. They held on to beat Heritage 5-4, so they're 9-2. Lone Star hung on to beat Reedy in extra innings in 14, so now they're second place, 8-3. Reedy falls to 7-4. Heritage with the loss, they fall to 7-4. Centennial, they beat Independence last night, so they're now 6-5. They're making things really, really interesting. Next week, Centennial Heritage series to end the season. That could be the fourth and final playoff spot right there. Who knows? I mean, Reedy, they play Lone Star again Friday night. Who knows? Wakeland Heritage, they still have a game to play Friday night. I mean, your guess is as good as mine to see who wins that district.
Well, guess what? We just went on record and made a few picks, put our feet to the fire, and had to cross a few teams off. So let's start with the I guess the more the pertinent one for the district title. It looks like Wakeland and Lone Star have pole position for that district title. Wakeland is at 9-2 right now in district. Lone Star 8-3. Do you see that order holding the rest of the way? It's kind of who do you see capturing the district title?
Wakeland plays last place Frisco. Well, Frisco's tied with Independence for last place. Wakeland plays Frisco twice next week.
Okay.
Assuming those are two wins, Wakeland is in the driver's seat. They hold their own destiny for a district title. But, they still have to play Heritage again Friday night, depending on what happens with Lone Star and Reedy. There's so many factors, so we'll have to see what happens after Friday night. But I'm going to go with Wakeland, district title, and I don't know. It's hard to count out Heritage and Reedy for that final playoff spot. I really, really like Heritage. They've had some crazy wins this year, come from behind close wins, but if I had to count anyone out, I know, Taylor, you're going to hate me for this. As I drop my mic, I think you pulled that off. I think Centennial misses the playoffs.
Taylor's just Centennial on
it.
Put two and two together.
It's all right. It's a fair choice. I mean, they are kind of the last team in right now, or the last team out, I guess, first team out, however you want to say it. But
it's just unfair. There's 5 good teams. I wish 5 teams could
come cover 6-6A. I mean, it's
good. I'll leave that to you.
It's the exact same scenario. I mean, it's it's a team. Well, which is also another interesting conversation when playoff time starts to roll around, and that's for another day. But how good are these districts? Are they just beating up on each other, or are teams really for real? And you look at Allen that's leading 6-6A. Is that a team that if they win the district is going to make a playoff run, or is it just because 6-6A is so crazy and has so much parity that everybody looks good, but maybe they're not? So
a lot of it just depends. Like most years, it's just kind of how the bracket breaks. Just how, you have teams that could, an easier road on the bracket might lead you to kind of overachieving in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, if you can get to the third round, then you take it any way you can. Let's see. So we've looked at Frisco ISD. We've looked at Plano, Allen, McKinney. We've also got a not so much as far as playoff berths are concerned over in 14-5A.
Right.
We've got an idea of the 4 teams in some order will be Prosper, Lake Dallas, Little Elm, and the Colony. As of right now, Prosper in first place at 11-0, Lake Dallas second place 10-1, and then you've got Little Elm and the Colony tied at 7-4 for third place. We know the 4 playoff teams. The more pertinent question right now is as Prosper just continues to lord over 14-5A and yet another sport, will the Eagles run the table? Or because when we say this, because it's worth noting, because they do have a series coming up. They do have a series coming up next week against that second place team, Lake Dallas, and obviously for the Falcons, the district title is still very much in play. They would have to obviously. They're fresh off a 4-0 victory over Little Elm on Tuesday. They would need to sweep Little Elm.
I was kind of shocked by that. Nothing against Lake Dallas, but I guess that was like they started 9-1, and I was like, okay, let's see if they're for real against Little Elm. They shut them out 4-0. Little Elm's got a pretty good offense. They played the Colony and Prosper really good so far this year, and I was keeping up with it on Game Changers as I was at my game at Wakeland last night, and I was like, man, that Ryan Depperschmidt, he does it all, and Lake Dallas look good on paper or on the computer screen, I guess you could say. So,
well, and Depperschmidt isn't even their ace. They aren't where they are now with a playoff spot all but locked up and potentially a district title without Mason Meeks, which I think is probably the game to watch when they play Prosper to round out the season. Whichever one Mason Meeks starts is going to be. Is Lake Dallas's best chance to win? I don't know if a sweep is in the cards. Maybe, you never know. Like you said, Depperschmidt ran out to start in the win over Little Elm, so who knows? But Mason Meeks has just been a horse all season long. That's how you go from, we were talking about this earlier, that's how you go from a 11-1 loss to the Colony to a 2-0 shutout victory in the same week, is because you can run Meeks out there, which is, I think, one of the arms that's as good as anybody in the area. So
they ran Meeks out there in relief on Tuesday against Little Elm. He got the save. I believe he threw the final 2 innings. Depperschmidt pitched the first 5. Depperschmidt added 2 hits as well, so getting it done in both offense and defense. And
too bad it's not like softball where you can just run out the same pitcher every week and just dominate. Like, if you have a dominant pitcher in softball, you're gonna have a good chance of
Right.
So I guess the odds would say that if Lake Dallas is going to stay consistent, Meeks is going to throw on Friday. He did throw about 25 pitches in relief, so he'll still have plenty to work with as far as his allotted pitch count goes. But talk a little bit about Prosper, Brian. Do you kind of they've looked the part right now. Although they did, I'm just looking over the scores right now. They did almost get tripped up by the Colony, but beyond that, it's just been a lot of 7-1, 5-1, 14-1. They've just blown out just about everything else in the district.
It's your same old Prosper team. Like, if you look, they have their aces coming back: Braden Carmichael and Taylor Pinley, a bunch of guys, Jake Cosner. They're stacked. They lost the heart of their order, but just like Prosper always does with all the kids they have, they're going to be a 6A team next year. So they are pretty much a 6A powerhouse playing in 5A. So they're locked and loaded, and it's showing. I won't be surprised. No offense, Lake Dallas, if they sweep you guys next week.
Right. Well, I think the interesting thing is you mentioned the near misstep against the Colony. Shea Hardis, I believe, is the kid's name for the Colony. He's a stud pitcher and ace, and he went against Prosper, and that's what led to them going 8 innings and a 1-run ball game. So I think that just kind of leans even more toward what we were saying about Meeks. When you run an arm like that out there, sometimes it doesn't exactly matter what's on the other side if they're on, and I think Meeks is as consistent as anybody. So I could see it going a lot of different ways, but it should be an interesting series and an interesting fight for the district title. I mean, Prosper obviously has the advantage, and I would probably take them sitting here today to lock it up, but you never know. And either way for Lake Dallas, a fantastic season for them and a great rebound season and an interesting team and case study for sure on high school baseball.
It's also ironic when you look at, you just mentioned, obviously Prosper will be in 6A. They have the largest, they're the largest school in District 14 5A, and it's the district title is going to come down to either gigantic Prosper versus little old Lake Dallas, who's barely above the 5A cutoff. Yeah. Fascinating little dynamic there as the Falcons and Eagles are look to be the top 2 seeds in District 14 5A. Let's round this out with one more look at another race, another playoff race that could potentially be exciting, could potentially flame out on Friday depending on what happens. And that's over in 15 5A, where Lovejoy is looking to. We'll see if Lovejoy can go 3 straight sports on the guys' side as far as these late season comeback heroics. Where Lovejoy, we have as folks remember, if you've listened to the podcast since football season, the football team was able to overcome, what was it, like an 0-5 start to the season, won their last 5 games to get into the playoffs. They
looked so bad at the end. I saw them in Wakeland, and they just got demolished. And I was like, man, the team last year, they looked so good, and their quarterback was hurt, their running back got hurt in that game, and they just looked terrible. And then we did one of those podcasts, and they were like on a 3 or 4 game winning streak, and y'all were talking about playoffs, and I was like, Lovejoy playoffs?
Wait, what?
They made some miraculous late season push, and then they actually even won a playoff game, got to the second round, and then the boys basketball team was able to mount its own late charge and sneak in and win a play-in game to qualify for the last playoff spot in 15 5A. So
they're saving themselves for the last week.
No lack of theatrics, and Lovejoy is still, they're kind of in a similar position now, at least in the relative to baseball. As of following Tuesday, they let one slip away on Tuesday. They lost to 7th place Mesquite Poteet 10-9. As of right now, they're 5-6 in district and 5th place in 15 5A. They trail Royce City by 2 games at 7-4 with 3 games to go. But plot twist: Lovejoy and Royce City play each other next week. So that's why this is relevant. I don't know. It's I don't know. Maybe they need the Todd Ford or Kyle Harriman, the football coach and the boys basketball coach, respectively, to give the team a pep talk before next week's series. But I don't know. It's kind of tough to get a read on whether or not Lovejoy can once again get hot at the right time and parlay this into a playoff berth. You kind of put yourself up against the wall by losing to Poteet last night, a team that you theoretically should have beat. While at the same time Royce City defeated Highland Park, who was in 3rd place, to build that 2-game cushion, meaning that Lovejoy essentially at this point has to win out. And
absolutely.
And I don't know. It's just looking over the schedules, just the gap that they have to make up. You never want to put anything past Lovejoy, which has shown that flair for the dramatic. But the odds might be a little bit too long in them. At least judging off just basic, just box score research.
I mean, you never
trends
know,
and whatnot. But
you never know, because the thing you have to look at is Lovejoy did seem like a team that prior to that loss to Poteet had taken care of business against the teams that they had to, and that's a good way to get in the playoffs in a lot of districts. If you beat up on the teams that you're supposed to beat, then a lot of times you wind up in that upper half without having to really do much or make much noise against the top half. But that loss to Poteet, as you mentioned, kind of threw a wrinkle in that plan. That can't happen for sure. But at the same time, I think Royce City also has a loss to Poteet this season.
They do, yes.
So a stinker from them as well. So a slightly better record, but a followable team there too. Step one for Lovejoy is coming back out and rebounding against Poteet, taking care of business against the team that they should beat Friday to stay 2 games behind. If Royce City wins, if Royce City loses, then and Lovejoy wins, then things get even more interesting. But I think if you're Lovejoy and you're sitting here heading into Friday, I think you have the attitude that we have to go win out and worry about the rest later. But I think it starts with kind of returning to beating the teams that you should beat on Friday, and then you worry about Royce City when Tuesday rolls around.
It's probably going to take a bit of a more, if you're just looking at these past few games, the offense has been incredible for Lovejoy. 14 runs in their first game against North Forney, 18 runs in the second game against North Forney, and then 9 on Tuesday against Poteet. But by that same accord, you allowed 13 runs in both your games against North Forney and then 10 runs against Poteet. So
it's not going to get the job done.
You can only win so many shootouts in high school baseball. But it would stand to reason that I think Royce City beating Highland Park was a little bit of a minor upset, even though Highland Park's not what it is this year. But it would stand to reason that Highland Park should get that win back on Friday, so you could just have a one-game difference between these two teams, and then it's just basically a winner-take-all series down the home stretch. So should be fun to see where that winds up. One team that is not in any sort of danger of not winning its district title or making the playoffs is Coppell. Coppell is just running roughshod over District 9-6A, and that is a nice springboard to our Fast Forward Rewind Student Athlete Spotlight for this week. Kendrick Johnson was out and about chatting with one of the stud pitchers for the Coppell Cowboys, Rye Gunter, on the Cowboys' latest dominant season on the diamond, and here is what Rye had to say.
Welcome to a new episode of our Fast Forward Rewind segment. This week's guest, Coppell star pitcher Rye Gunter. Do you feel the pressure, the fact that people know who you are and every time you touch the mound that you expected to deliver?
No pressure. It's just I'm expected to go out there and perform every week in and week out. So it just adds to my adrenaline whenever I get out there on the mound, and go out there and throw strikes and blow by people. So,
what's been the key to your success so far this year?
The ability to throw strikes, blow by people with fastball, and still be able to throw a curveball is an off-speed pitch. How
big a deal from a team perspective is to make a far run?
Especially being here at Coppell, it's expected from us every year just because the talent has come through here. It's the standard here at Coppell to go deep in the playoffs every year.
What did you learn from last year's playoff run?
It humbled us somewhat from last year's run, only going 2 rounds deep and losing to Oak Ridge. Just knowing that anybody can beat us at any time, so we have to stay humble at all times.
How much did I talk about though? Is it just kind of it's in the past or something that I do talk about for motivation?
We don't really talk about it much. It's in the past now, and we don't really talk about it at all.
How's it good to be able to do what y'all doing in the district so far this year?
It's been really good just to see that we can beat anybody on any type of day. We won't go out there and win every game so far.
Does it make you feel good the fact that even if you struggle, that your team can pick you up and y'all can still find a way to win? It's not like you have to be perfect for y'all to get the W.
Yeah, this year our hitting's been best it's ever been since I've been here at least. Just going out there knowing I don't have to throw a perfect game every time or give up 0 runs every time, knowing that my hitters are going to get us 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 runs. Every game is a good thing to know.
Does it feel good the fact that people come to see you, but people are starting to see that the Coppell Cowboys as a team is good, and some of your other boys can? Who's some people that are under the radar that people need to be on the lookout for?
The team as a whole, I feel like we were under the radar from the start, just not having all these commits. A bunch of pitchers and a bunch of hitters that have really been carrying their weight at every position has been really helpful for the team.
Speaking of commit, what got you to commit to the good old boys from LSU in Bayou City?
I grew up in North Louisiana, so it's always been a dream school for me.
Oh, what part?
Monroe, West Monroe area.
Get out of here.
Yes,
I lived in West Monroe.
Really?
I know about the Rebels.
Yes, sir.
I'm straight off of 7th Street by the Sonic.
Yes,
does it feel good the fact that not only you going to a good program, a good school, that you're going to be on the SEC and get all kinds of exposures for scouts?
Yes, sir. It's playing in the SEC. There's nothing like it. Going against the best competition in the country. I'll be tested, and I'll either do really well or I'll have to work really hard at it.
How does Coppell got you ready for that next level?
Just the previous talent that's come through here has really made me work to be able to play here, and all the coaches and all the staff here has really helped me with their knowledge and with their wisdom just to help me be where I am today.
Well, you've been a nice laid-back guy. How you embrace this big spotlight that you've been in because of your talent? Because you seem like you just want to go out and pitch and go home and go about your business.
Yeah, me personally, I just pretty reserved person, so I just go out there and pitch and do my job and go home and put my work in.
Hey, where you headed? So when you're not working out and thinking baseball, what does Rye Gunter do?
Classwork mostly, hang out with friends, just being outdoors, enjoying life as it is.
Do you like any other sports? You keep up with?
I used to play football in high school, but baseball's always been my life. So.
Like, do you watch any like college or NFL or anything like that?
Yeah, I love watching college football, watching LSU Tigers play SEC football. It's nothing like it.
How's cool like that on Saturdays? You gonna get to go to Tiger Stadium for the next 4 years?
Yes, sir. Going out there watching them play Alabama next year at home should be something else.
How many times have you been to the box?
I've been to the box 3 times. I've never seen a home game there. I've only been there for camps and fall scrimmages, but I've always wanted to play there, so it should be fun.
Are you going to go see a game this year, or are you just going to wait till when you got that jersey on, it'll be your first time at everything and suck it all in and all at once?
Yeah, I'll probably wait till I go down there during the summer, and next fall will probably be my first time to play there. So.
Do you even keep up with what's happening with them, or you just kind of follow that away to that's next year you deal with it when you get to it?
I follow them. I've been following them through SEC play and stuff like that, and it's been fun to watch how they've done as a team, knowing a couple kids that are down there right now. It's just been fun to watch it.
If somebody's going to give a scout report on you, what do you think they would say about your pitcher? What do you bring to the table?
I think they would say that I'm an overpowering pitcher, loved by a lot of people. Tall, lanky kid, really projectable, and has a demeanor on the mound that's unmatched.
So what do you think your 2 best strengths are?
Probably my mental toughness and ability to throw strikes and clutch situations. I think that's my 2 biggest strengths.
If you're fortunate to hear your name called in the minor league draft, would you ever consider skipping LSU, or you got your mind made up you're gonna go to the Bayou City?
It just depends on what the situation's like, but either way, it's a win-win situation. So.
Are you looking forward to the draft just to see what happens?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not leaning one way or the other. So.
Gotcha. When you go to LSU, will you be a straight pitcher, or will you be somebody that pitches one day and be out in the field or someone the next?
I'll be a pitcher only at LSU.
Are you looking forward to that?
Yes, sir, I am.
Talk about the support here, because like Cowboy Nation's in full effect.
Yeah, just being in Coppell, there's the facilities here and the fans here and the families here. They just come out every game and support us at the home field, and there's nothing like it.
Is now that y'all kind of establish yourself as the dominant team in the district, do you think y'all getting everybody's best shot, which will get y'all ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, I think that every time we go out there, we're going to see everybody's ace. So it's been really testing us throughout district and throughout tournaments. So we should be ready for playoffs. After
being on that mound last year in the playoffs, is there anything in your mentality that you're like, this cannot happen again, like that you're looking for, like I won't say redemption, but to kind of let everybody know that, hey, this season was not a fluke, that y'all that real dominant team y'all been all year? I
just go out there and try to think that get everybody out, don't fear anybody but respect everybody. That mentality, go out there on the mound every game.
I just feel the fact that you leave such a legacy being a high school All-American and all these accolades that people are going to be talking about you 4 or 5 years from now here at Coppell, like you made your own mark.
I try not to think about that. I just go out there and play with my boys and try to win every game.
What's been your best game so far this year and why?
Probably the last game against Richardson Berkner. Just ability to throw strikes in every situation, ability to throw a curveball whenever I needed to, which just really helped me out.
I got to ask you, I see your buddies out here dancing and stuff in the background. What's y'all mentality? Y'all see the guy got loose vibe around here.
Yeah, we really just try to have fun with it, but still put in the work at the same time. It's been a really fun year so far, and the vibe of this team is really nice. So we're just going to try to have fun with it while it lasts and try to go as far as we can.
How's y'all coach been a positive influence on y'all?
Both our coaches, Coach Clark and Coach Rushing, has been really helpful throughout this entire experience in our high school careers. Just been there with knowledge beyond belief from what we know, and just been there for us, coaching us as well as they can, as well as any coach can. It's just been really nice.
And final question to me, just sum up your high school career and how much you're looking forward to being a Tiger all at once. So let's go from a Cowboy to a Tiger.
Just being here the last 4 years has been really fun, really exciting. I'll never forget these 4 years. Just pitching at the Coppell field and with these teammates has been really exciting. But I'm really looking forward to the next 3 or 4 years at Alex Box and under Coach Maneri and Coach Dunn and Coach Nolan Kane, and with all those guys out there, it's going to be really fun.
Thank you to Kendrick and Rye for that little chit chat right there. So as we do, we're going to round things up by talking about our Friday coverage slates, plus any other news and notes from our necks of the woods. Brian, you're going to be looking at a busy few days. Talk a little about how you're going to be rounding out your week.
It's not just Friday for me. I'll be in Georgetown for the state soccer tournament, covering a million teams Thursday, Friday,
and
covering everyone.
We do have a million teams going,
and potentially Saturday, depending. Yeah. There's a chance that I could be covering 4 consecutive games on Saturday, all for the soccer state championship. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep, you've got the Wakeland boys and girls on Thursday, the Marcus girls and the Coppell boys on Friday, and then any winners will play on into Saturday and try and bring a state championship back to the Metroplex. Taylor, our coverage isn't as pressing, doesn't have the stakes as high, but we've got a fascinating finale for District 6A softball.
Game number 14.
Which you saw a fun one last night. Talk a little about what you got going down on Friday.
Oh my gosh! Well, you mentioned last night. We'll talk about that game for a second. The 8-inning, 16-13 Allen victory over Plano East was just bonkers. Pretty much from, I don't want to say start to finish, because I think in the first 3 innings, East jumped out to a 5-0 lead, and it looked like they were at home. They could lock up a playoff spot. They could eliminate Allen. They were going to, kind of take control and cruise, and then all of a sudden just a bonkers game broke out. They went 8. Allen scored, I think, 5 in the top of the 7th to go up 13-9. East came back and tied it at 13 in the bottom of the 7th. Allen scored another 3 in the top of the 8th to get to the 16-13 final and keep their playoff hopes alive. So that's why Game 14 matters so much for both of us. I will be out at Plano, where East will head to have a matchup with the Lady Wildcats. East still controls its own destiny. They beat Plano, then what Allen does doesn't matter. But if East loses to Plano, then things get really interesting again, and I know you'll be out there for Allen and Wiley. So.
Yep, I'll be out at Allen for their regular season finale against Wiley. It's a matchup between us. Taylor just alluded to. Allen's in 5th place right now at 6-7 in the district. They're 1 game behind Plano East. Like I said, the stakes are simple. Allen wins, East loses, and Allen gets in by virtue of the head-to-head.
For the first time since.
Let's not bury that. What considering what the expectations were at the start of the season.
Yeah.
The two of you and I picked Plano East to win this district. So nuts to us, but then you got a team like Allen, where
13 years, is that right?
It's been since 2005.
So 12 official seasons.
Yeah, the team that's looking for its first playoff berth since 2005. What it's at the beginning of the year, just to forecast that Allen would have swept Plano East. That is one of the, it's going to happen soon as far as snapping that playoff drought.
Right.
The Lady Eagles have taken a massive step in their second year under head coach Philip Spaniel, and they're knocking on the door of that playoff spot. They've got to take care of business against a solid Wiley team. Wiley is 3rd place in the district at 8-5. They still have, let's see, I guess they still have plenty to play for too, just from a seeding standpoint, because them and East could theoretically tie at
I think so, yeah.
At 8-6. So
in any case, that Wiley team's not a team that would roll over or
I just saw
take
them,
a game off against anybody.
I saw them last week. Just take Plano, first place Plano, district champion Plano, right down to the wire before losing 6-5. They got a lot of power.
Wiley's for real. I think Wiley is. It's tough to say underrated at this point, with the season that they've had, but certainly underrated coming into the season, and I would say a little bit of a surprise just how good they've been. But that's a softball team that is absolutely for real and has the capability to make some noise in the playoffs. And they, like I said, they're not going to roll over and let Allen. Okay, you guys try to get in the play. It's going to be a dogfight for Allen and a true test of if they're really ready to take that next step and get back into the postseason. Should be fun. So yeah, that should be a fun little Friday night for all of us. So whether we're here in Plano or down in old Georgetown, Brian, have fun covering state soccer. Otherwise, folks, that is about all we had for this. We'll be live tweeting up a storm for all these games. You can follow me along on Twitter at MWelchSLM. I know I've had you say your Twitter handle on this a ton. So if you haven't followed Brian Murphy right by now,
what's wrong with
what are you doing?
At Brian Murphy _, and it's Brian with a Y.
That's for you, cool. Taylor? Where can
it is at Taylor Ragland, RAGLIN. No spaces, no underscores, nothing. Right. Clean and easy.
No one has your name on Twitter?
No.
Lucky.
I'm the only one.
So yeah, folks, I appreciate you for checking this out. We'll be back on, actually, Brian will have some rapid reaction podcasts from the action down at State Soccer, so be on the lookout for those. Otherwise, we will be back on Monday with another edition of the Star Local Media Sports Podcast. Folks, appreciate y'all checking this out. Y'all enjoy the rest of the week, and we will talk to y'all later. Thanks again to our sponsors, Star Local Media, 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news.